Talk Crochet. Hey folks, it's Mary, aka MercyTriumphs, and this is my channel, Slow Crochet. This is episode 047. Today is my weekly update of works in progress, finished objects, and new starts in my crochet world. So let's get right into it. So when I'm crocheting, I like to have a variety of projects of various levels of concentration required. And so sometimes I can get things done because they are things I can do when my actual attention is elsewhere, and they're pretty small. But I like having those small projects interspersed with the bigger ones because it helps keep me motivated and it helps me persist and get through the bigger ones. Some of my finished objects this week are quite small, and the smallest of them is a simple little ear warmer. I've been thinking about ear warmers because I really don't have that many in my collection, and I've also been trying to take some of my yarns that really need to get used up and put some small projects to them. So this yarn here is actually a Hobby Lobby clearance yarn from 2022. Wow, it's almost done with 2023 already. This is an authentic hand-dyed chunky in the colorway Olive Tree. And so this is a 100% superwash merino wool. I have made a giant hat with the same yarn, and I just had a little bit left over. So I thought for an ear warmer that the moss stitch would be a great stitch to use because it's nice and stretchy. And so I just chained across and I started moss stitching my way around. And then when I finally joined it together, I created just a little extra band of single crochets, and I stitched that all up and kind of tucked it underneath. So this as an ear warmer could kind of go either way. It could go across the head like that, or I could put the knot in front. I didn't follow a pattern for this. I just wanted something that I didn't have to think about as I was making it, and I could try it on as I went. I made a little note on here that I only had about 74 yards of this left, so this took maybe a little bit less. I do love how the colors play out, and I do love how sweet it can be. Oh, I could do it kind of on the side for a off-center asymmetrical look. That's really cute. So finished object number 1. Finished object number 2 is actually something that I have been working on for a while, and that is my Scarfy Light Tunisian Simple Stitch cowl. So this thing is done. It is fluffy, it is cozy, it is adorable, and of course I love how this turned out. For this I did use Scarfy Light in the colorway Tiger Lily, and this is a 4-weight yarn, and it has about 350 yards, 349 yards in it. I used most of that. And in order to make this cowl, I was actually inspired by the Precious Metals cowl, which was done with regular Scarfy, which is a 5-weight yarn. The joy of this was just having something very rhythmic and sweet to work on. It was a little bit wide for my hook, so I had to make sure I did a full pass all the way across and all the way back to make sure that my stitches weren't falling off the end of my hook every time. So it did take a little bit of thought, but I am really glad how it turned out. This is only my second Tunisian crochet project, and I think I'll do more of it. It's just a very peaceful thing. For me, I can't automate it quite yet, but I found it a lot more enjoyable than I realized. And because this yarn is so fuzzy, doing something very simple turned out to be very effective. So that is finished object number 2. Finished object number 3, it's a very straightforward, simple V-stitch scarf. This is inspired by Miss Betty Lou. Way back in the day when my channel was brand new, she was so encouraging, and she sent me some pictures of some gorgeous, I hope you don't mind Miss Betty Lou, I hope you don't mind me saying this, she sent me some pictures of some gorgeous scarves that she'd made. I've never really gotten that interested in a straightforward V-stitch, but her scarves were so lovely that I thought, hey, I could do one of those. So this one is made using Yarn Bee Second Chance, and it came from the 2022 clearance, and it is 60% recycled acrylic, 40% recycled polyester, and this was not a full skein. but it does come in 367 yards per skein, and this was the color Parsley. This week I actually took my big old bag of donations and I gave them a new home. It is getting a little chillier here, so I wanted to make sure that people had access to those things. But there's a second place that I want to donate to, so I'm going to start stocking up on some scarves and hats and things for that second donation location. And yeah, I actually really love this V-stitch. It didn't take nearly as much yarn as I thought, and yet it still makes a pretty tight fabric. So wonderful. Thank you so much, Miss Betty Lou, for that inspiration. My fourth and final finished object this week is another hat. Oh my goodness. But this one I love. I love it. I love the colors. I love how soft it is. This was made with one of my pickups from the last big Smart Arts and Crafts yarn haul that I did. This is Plymouth yarn in Baby Alpaca Grande hand dyed, and it is 100% baby alpaca, and it is approximately 110 yards. It's a hand wash, lay flat kind of thing. I think I used a size K hook on this, a 6.5 millimeter. And this is a pattern by Crystal at Bag O' Day that I think is one of her most overlooked patterns. But it's so great because it uses just about 100, maybe a little bit more, just about 100 yards you can really get away with. So it's truly a one skein project. I will say, for a true one skein project, it needs to be more of a bulky weight than a worsted weight. But this is actually another of the exact same pattern that I did work up in a worsted weight, and they're pretty comparable. So for this pattern, it's just a straightforward double crochet and then some single crochet in the back loops only. The one thing that I did differently was at the end, I did some extended single crochets, and then I did some slip stitching in the back loops only. This might have been actually the first time that I made up this hat in the recommended yarn weight. I've only used predominantly the worsted weight in the past. I wanted to go ahead and make this because when I found the yarn and I saw the yardage on it, I knew immediately that this was the hat I wanted to make. So I just thought, hey, I need a little bit of a project to help get me through the rest of the bigger makes. So I'm gonna bust this out, and I really enjoyed making it. The alpaca is so soft, and it feels wonderful across my forehead and around where it gets to my ears. Love the colors, love how springy and bright it is, and especially as we're going into the winter months, it'll be beautiful to have those lighter colors kind of set against the darker, cloudier backgrounds. So that is my fourth finished object of the week. I'm going to switch back to my other version of this hat, and that pattern, along with anything else I mentioned, will be linked in the description below. All right. Works in progress. First of all, I'm going to talk about a work in progress that was kind of a fail. This is an attempt at a cowl. Now, originally I was using a different pattern for this, and I decided to frog that all the way back and to try just a lark's foot crochet pattern, a lark's foot stitch. So what is the problem here? Well, as much as I love this lark's foot, I'm just finding that it's a little bit too scratchy, to be honest, to go against that real tender skin of my neck. Once I actually have it worked up, it's feeling a little bit too scratchy. So this I wanted to show because there is a process here. You know, when we crochet, not every pattern we try is going to be great right away. Sometimes we do have to frog back several times to get to where we want something to be. But I am loving the interplay of these two colors. This is two different colors of Queensland Brisbane. And I think the plan for this now is to make a two-colored hat. So please, I'm on the search for a good two-color hat pattern. Not necessarily stripes, but maybe something like this, where you see the stitches and you see some definition there. I know that Moogly has a cute one. I think there's a firefly beanie. There's a lot of different ones. But if you've done two-color hats, please let me know. I would love to get some inspiration there because ultimately I really want to show off all the colors in this gorgeous variegated yarn. Each of these hanks was about 110 yards. So I have about 220 to play with. I think I'll be able to get a cute hat out of it. It doesn't have to be slouchy. In fact, I prefer them a little bit more fitted. But let me know in the comments, do you have a hat pattern that you could recommend? Here is an ongoing project for hashtag crovember, and I do want to apologize to Miss Pamela. I neglected to include you in my last video when I hashtagged crovember, but Miss Pamela over at Ginger Cat Crochets is the one that has come up with that hashtag, and I think it's really sweet. So this is my Christmas make for November, and y'all, I have got to really get on it. I am making a Christmas tree skirt, and I put a little tag, a little stitch marker of where I ended last week, and this is how far I've gotten this week. So it is single crochets and bobble stitches, and it's a lot of counting. So that's why this is taking me so long, because I'm having to count and recount. I've had to rip out a couple of rows because I've gotten off by 1 or 2 stitches, and that's really disheartening. Trying to take extra time now so I don't have to do that again. So I am using the Silent Night Christmas Tree Skirt pattern, which is a free pattern. It's linked below. You do have to sign up for an email list to get access to it. It has all these little bobbles, and then it will have some post-stitch trees on the bottom. I'm on row 43. It's a total of 78 rows. So I'm right around the halfway mark. I think I can do it, but this is one of those ones where I'm really going to love how this turns out. It's definitely going to be a heritage piece, but it's not something that I really get excited about. It's something I really have to concentrate on. So this is one that I'm just going to have to persevere and work it through. Hopefully, I will get this done before Thanksgiving, which is in 2 weeks. It's in 2 weeks, but we always put up our Christmas tree the day after Thanksgiving, so I want it done in time for that. But thank you, Pamela, for your sweet encouragement to keep going on these Christmassy works in progress. That was something I reported on last week. This is something that is new. I have decided to do Crystal's puff stitch hat in my second skein of Scarfy Light. You know, I was thinking I don't have a lot of hat and scarf sets, and in order to do something with puff stitches, it takes a lot of yardage. In that tutorial, Crystal uses regular Scarfy, that 5-weight, that bulky weight yarn. And this one, again, is a 4-weight yarn. So I'm having to fudge it a little bit. It started to get really ruffly on me at first, so I can't follow the pattern exactly. This one is something that I'm finding a really beautiful rhythm to, just puff stitch after puff stitch after puff stitch. And you see how the colors are playing out differently. They're a lot more concentrated in the puff stitches than in the Tunisian crochet, but I think they'll be absolutely lovely as a pair. Just a little bit of contrast in textures to keep it interesting, and then that unifying color. So for this one, I am using a size J, a 6mm hook, which is the same size I used in Tunisian. And hopefully I'll be able to get this one done this week. I think it's going to turn out really beautifully. Crystal's version does make it a slouchy hat, and I'm going to try not to do that, but I do have some extra kind of fluff here, so it won't be super tight fitting perhaps. This yarn is really hard to frog. It's really frustrating to frog, and initially I did have to frog maybe 5 rows. It was getting so ruffly and so unwieldy that I just knew it wasn't going to sit right. It wasn't going to fit right on my head. That is one of these new starts for the week, and I'm really thankful for how it's coming along. So Crystal did put out several videos recently that showed off some of her favorite hats and scarves and sweaters, things of that nature. So that puff stitch beanie was among her hat video. I can link that below. And then she had a video showing off some favorite scarves. So I decided to do one of those because now that I finished a scarf for donation, I wanted another one of that same nature. So this is Crystal's corner to corner scarf. And believe it or not, this is my very first ever corner to corner anything. Very first. I can see why people like it so much because you can get in a really great rhythm with it, and it creates a beautiful texture and it creates a really interesting design. The yarn I am using is Red Heart Roll With It Tweed, which is 100% acrylic. There are 296 yards or 271 meters in each one of these balls. This is one that I picked up from Ollie's over a year ago at least. And it is a size 4-weight yarn. It calls for an I-9 hook or a 5.5 millimeter hook. I have been using my vintage size K boy hook, which is a 6.0 millimeter, and I really like how it's turning out. This is the color Stormy Blues, and so I thought this would really do well as a unisex scarf. Those colors would work well for a man or a woman, and hopefully by the time I get this to be about 5.5 feet long, I'll have enough to make a hat to go with it. So that'll be another donation, and that's also something I can just kind of autopilot and let my hands work when I'm doing something else or something of that nature. Speaking of Ollie's, so Ollie's Bargain Outlet is a place where you kind of get second run items that haven't sold in larger stores. So for example, they'll have overstock or unsold electronics or socks or books or things of that nature. And surprise, surprise, Bernat Blanket Ogos arrived at our Ollie's. So I was going anyway to get a couple of things, and I took a look at their Ogos, and my children happened to be with me, and they each picked out some colors of yarn to make scarves. They had been requesting scarves because their little necks were getting cold, but those little necks are so sensitive that I wanted to make sure that they were soft enough. So these got the softness approval, and this, believe it or not, is my first time working with blanket yarn. It's an experience. I remember working with velour yarn way back in the day, or like chenille yarn. I remember it being pretty challenging to work with because of how tight it was. You didn't have the spring back of your standard plied yarns. So I've come at this with some hesitation and with a size in a 9.0 millimeter crochet hook. For these Ogos, they came with 3 different colors on the O itself, and I asked the children to pick out their 2 favorite colors in those Ogos to make a basic striped scarf. This is in the color turquoise, and all it is chain a whole bunch and single crochet back and forth. And that's all it's going to be. This is another project to just keep my hands busy, but I like it because it's something new for me to work with. So it is kind of stretching me out of my comfort zone a little bit, but it's also providing an actual need for the children, because who would want to just buy your children a scarf when you could make them a scarf, right? At Ollie's, these Ogos were priced at $4.99, but I did have a 15% off coupon on top of that, which is one of the reasons that I went into the store. I had some other things to pick up. I'm going to do my best to use as much as I can on these scarves because I don't really see myself being drawn to this type of yarn. When I'm working with this yarn, I can't even really wrap the yarn as I normally would for tension because it's so thick. I just have to hold it in my hand and let it do what it's going to do. For this project, it's perfect because I don't need it to be super tight. I'm not looking for stitch definition. All I can really handle with it are single crochets anyway. But it is a whole different experience than using worsted weight or DK weight or something of that nature. So lovely experience, good to stretch myself, and I'm glad that I'll have little necks that are kept warm. So that is it for this week. It feels like a lot, maybe because it's a lot of little things. Thank you so much to all of my subscribers, old and new. Thank you for everyone who has come along for this little YouTube-y crochet adventure. I'm really thankful for every one of y'all who hits the like button, who subscribes, who comments, all those little YouTube-y things. It has been such a joy to have this channel as part of my life, and it's been such a joy connecting with you. It's an honor that I get to be part of your life. And I do mean that with complete sincerity. I don't take y'all for granted. So thank you. I know in this wide world, there's so much going on. Everyone is bidding for attention. There is this place in the fiber arts where we are longing to connect with other people. And I'm so thankful that I get to connect with you. We get to talk yarn together, talk about little things that we're working on. So let me know in the comments below, what are you excited about this week? Is Christmas looming and you're trying frantically to get things done ahead of that? Or do you have little necks that need to be warm? Or are you working on some donations? I know that now is a time that lots of charities are looking for donations, and it's a wonderful time for us in the crochet world to take what we've made and to send that love out into the world. If I'm not your cup of tea, thank you so much for listening this long. I do appreciate it, and I do hope I'll see you again soon. Bye.